Commission meeting for Wednesday, June 25th, 2025. This meeting is being broadcast live by Westford Cable Access TV and recorded for playback online. Attendees are reminded that by attending this meeting, you're consenting to your likeness and audio being used and rebroadcast by Westford Cable Access TV. The first item on our agenda at 7 p.m. is open forum. Do any members of the commission have something for open forum? Jim?
A couple of things about the camp operation that began this week. According to the contract, we're supposed to get half the rent before the first day of camp. Did we get paid? Okay, good. We're supposed to, like a month ago or so, we're supposed to receive the proof of insurance. Did we get a proof of insurance from them?
I'll have to confirm that. I don't recall, but I'll make sure we have.
All right. And we're supposed to fill the propane tank. You thought it was full?
Yeah, we have the.
All right, good. I think that's it. The other stuff we'll talk about in the report.
Okay. Matt, do you have anything for open forum?
No.
Okay. Do members of the audience have anything for open forum? Okay, moving on to our other 7 p.m. agenda item. It's a certificate of compliance request for Gibbons, 53 Elm Road.
Good evening, Mark Slager from Allen Engineering, here on behalf of the Gibbons Group at 53 Elm Road. Submitted a request for a certificate of compliance. Lot has been completed, substantial conformance with the plan, and everything is stable.
Could you just talk louder?
I just can't hear you.
Well, yeah, but
The mic doesn't.
the mic's
Oh, the
for,
mic doesn't.
No, the mic actually does pick up now, but you can just talk louder.
No, that's
Okay.
Marilyn needs you to talk louder.
Not a
Oh,
problem.
come on.
I was being a little quiet. Like I said, we submitted an as-built plan. Everything is built pretty much in accordance with the approved plan. The flood storage meets all the requirements. It's slightly larger than what was proposed, but you know, we meet all the regulations. The only minor issue that we came across during the site walk is, let's see if I get this right here. Right in this location, next to the existing driveway, is a crushed stone driveway where it was supposed to be lawn. The grading is still conforming to the plan. The crushed stone is more permeable than the proposed lawn that was there. Didn't see any issues with it. It doesn't affect the flood storage, doesn't affect runoff or anything. So Matt pointed out that it may be something in the future that the homeowners in the future may want to pave, but they'll have to be aware that the whole lot is within the floodplain and also within the buffer zone, so they'll have to come before the commission for any future work at the site.
So where there's crushed stone, is it being used for parking of vehicles or anything?
Yes, there is one car parked there.
Okay.
And before it was lawn?
Before the redevelopment of the site, that area was lawn?
It was, yeah.
Okay, which still could be parked on?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Matt, did you have any?
No, just do want to note that there was the original approved plan had a buffer along the edge of the land under water body for the kind of lagoon of Nabnasset Lake, and upon the site visit, it appears pretty well vegetated naturally, you know, so it was something that was in the order of conditions, but they were able to retain a lot of natural, native pre-existing vegetation. And so the wall area is fairly well vegetated. They were also able to retain 2 fairly substantial trees on the property. And that's kind of, I think, accounts for some of the undulations or kind of the fingers of topographic contours, you know, where there's, you know, 169, a finger of 169 in here, and then
There's a slight
117.
mound over in this area that's a little bit raised, but you can see this, the low area follows over in here. So this area is a little bit higher than the rest of the ground, but again, it meets all the flood storage requirements.
and they were able to retain 2 mature trees.
Oh, that's good. Okay. Comments or questions from?
So was there a buffer required to be maintained as part of the order?
Yeah, and so as part of the order, there was supposed to be a vegetated buffer installed, but I think that was also, originally they were proposing to grade, the entire limit of work, the entire property was the limit of work. So where they were able to retain these trees, some native pre-existing.
Just want to make sure that there's still that obligation to maintain that.
Yeah, I mean, and a lot of the vegetation is actually below the, kind of right on both sides of that retaining wall. That was pre-existing, and so it's vegetated on both sides.
Can I have a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for DEP file number 334-1772?
Second?
All those in favor? Aye. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Moving on to our 7:05 PM agenda item, it's a public hearing for Schumacher, 63 Buckboard Drive.
Under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Westford's Non-Zoning Wetlands Bylaw, Chapter 171, the Westford Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, June 25th, 2025, at 7:05 PM in Meeting Room 201 at Town Hall by Main Street, to consider the request for determination of applicability application of Laura Schumacher for the installation of an 8x12 shed within 100 feet of bordering vegetated wetlands at 63 Buckboard Drive, Assessors Map 028, Parcel 0046, Lot 0000.
Good evening.
Hello. I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with what
Oh,
we're
okay.
supposed to do.
So you just tell us who you are and then kind of describe a little bit what your project is.
I am Laura Shoemaker. I'm planning to build a shed, 8x12, at the side of our house on our lawn.
Okay.
So I was able to stop out this afternoon. One question I did have was, is any vegetation being removed for the installation of it? Do you need to cut down, because this is kind of on the fireplace side, correct? Is any of that, existing vegetation, trees, understory, brush need to be removed?
Or is it on the lawn?
It's
Area
mostly,
that's already maintained?
yeah, it's mostly on the lawn. They might need to cut like a foot into the undergrowth there. We wouldn't knock down like any big trees, but just some of the little
Okay.
brush stuff.
They have those like little kind of viney plants.
They, yeah.
Okay.
Matt, what's his closest point?
So the
They got about 97 feet.
yeah, I think it's a little bit close.
Yeah, it kind of swings up a little bit.
Yeah, there's a finger that comes up onto the property. But yeah, it's certainly, somewhere, I think the nearest point I previously measured was somewhere about, 70 feet from. And it's no closer than the existing dwelling. Additionally, as the proposed shed is greater than, is accessory to the use of a single-family dwelling, the commission may find that its installation is considered a minor activity under the state's Wetlands Protection Act pursuant to 310 CMR 10.2B2E, which is cited in I think the application to PA Form 1. Yep, there you go.
So you're looking just to do a negative determination?
Negative determination. No grading. You don't need to do any grading in terms of, or it will be installed kind of level on blocks.
We had some site prep guys out to take a look, and they thought that it could be installed. It was level enough at that location.
Okay, yeah. Because if there was to be any grading, you need to bring ground up or lower. We just want to make sure that it gets kind of stabilized with like a crushed stone, and if that was the case, also, there was going to be any exposed soils.
That doesn't seem to be the case.
Doesn't seem to be the
So-
case. But if it changes,
So the plan is for crushed stone.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
still crushed
Yeah.
stone underneath. Okay.
Yeah,
Great.
the shed people recommended putting crushed stone, I think it was a foot around the
Yeah.
outside of the shed perimeter, so we're planning to do that.
Okay.
Okay. So, can I have a motion?
To issue a
Public
negative determination.
Oh, wait.
Oh, yes, any from the audience? Sir?
Yes. So are there any comments or questions from members of the audience? No? Okay. So now can I have a motion to issue a negative determination?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So negative determination is good. It means you don't need to go farther in the process, and Matt will be getting the paperwork to you.
Okay,
I'll be in touch.
great.
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you.
After he passes it to us to sign.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're moving on to our 7:10 PM agenda item, which is a public hearing for Hartnett, 17 Beatrice Road.
Under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Westford's non-zoning wetlands bylaw, Chapter 171, the Westford Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, June 25th, 2025 at 7:10 PM in Meeting Room 201 at Town Hall, 55 Main Street, to consider the request for determination of applicability application of Thomas Hartnett, the removal, replacement, and extension of 2 retaining walls, removal of a 12 by 22 foot shed and replacement with a 12 by 24 foot shed, and paving of a gravel driveway within 100 feet of bordering vegetated wetlands at 17 Beatrice Road, Assessors Map 075, parcel 0038, lot 0000.
Good evening.
Evening all, I'm Tom Hartnett. My address is actually abutting this property. I live at 12 Dell Road, but I also own this property which abuts it. It's a cute little cottage. We've been before the board before for projects here. It's got if you can look at the pictures, it's got a pretty large and ugly old garage shed on the front of the property. It's probably older than I am, as far as I can tell. And I think it's probably time to do something about it. The changes I'm proposing are very minor, only because the sheds that I've been looking at and are prefab and be able to be dropped in there are not exactly the same size. That's a 12 by 22 foot shed, and the standard size for the prefab sheds is 12 by 24. And then talking to the folks who will do the work, they would have preferred to actually extend the retaining walls out along the sides by 1 foot all around, just to give that little extra for drainage and so forth. So it currently is sitting on concrete block. We'll keep 2 of the retaining walls to the north and the west side, and we will basically remove the retaining wall to the east side and move it out 2 feet so that we can accommodate the desires of the shed company.
How high is that retaining wall that you'd be putting on the side?
I think it's something in the range of about 18 inches.
Okay.
So, really simple. It's about 70 feet from the vegetation on a stream that heads down along Southport Pond. So as you can see the pictures there, it's pretty much identical in terms of size and functionality. And we're just trying to do something about having to look at that ugly thing all the time. So that's the shed. I thought while we were here, I'd talk about maybe paving that dirt drive, because I have to snow blow that every winter, and I'm tired of spewing gravel to all the neighbors. So I just thought to see what you folks thought about converting that from a crushed stone driveway to a paved drive.
So what are the course?
So, members of the commission have any questions?
What's the distance from the BBW to the driveway?
From the shed, you're talking?
No.
To the end of the drive. I think it's about 50 feet.
50 feet,
Yeah,
yeah.
I was, scaling off earlier today, and it's about 50 feet. And again, this existing cardboard.
That does not exist.
Yeah, that's been since removed since this, again, this plan, this is the plan that best represents kind of the BVW and the dirt drive and the shed building.
Okay, and so even though this is fairly near along for Pond, it's those shaded areas at the bottom, that's the
Yes,
resource
that's
area.
the nearest
what-
resource area.
That's
A stream that runs through there.
Okay.
And the little culvert goes underneath my other driveway out to the pond.
Okay. Matt, did you have any?
So I did stop out this afternoon, and it actually is fairly, the photos, particularly this, the second one, it shows the cover of the tight tank.
Yeah.
It's maybe 5 feet from the existing corner. Have you spoken with the health department at all?
I haven't, I started here.
Okay, no, and then that's perfectly fine. It was just kind of
That's
one
the
of those.
same question, because if he bumps out a couple of feet, he's gonna be almost sitting on top of that tank.
Right,
Or just
and-
even if somebody happens to be bringing in a heavy piece of equipment to do some of the work, it's just,
Yeah, the shed pretty much gets dropped in with a flatbed. My experience so far with the health department when it comes to stuff like that, because I have dealt with them before, is they care a lot more about what's inside than what's sitting on top. But,
Yeah, but again, where, on, where you are bumping out, the 2x6 blocks, in the direction of the existing tight tank, I think it would be good to have a conversation with them just in the, if they have, additionally, again, I don't know if you've spoken with the building commissioner and if a certified, again, with the size of the shed garage that's being proposed, in my estimation, would require a building permit. I don't know if the shed company discussed that, but I would confirm with them. I mean, you're also very close to the front yard. This building, if I can pretend to do zoning, it's within the front yard setback and is pre-existing non-conforming, so I think, in my estimation, if you replace it in, no closer than that 18 feet, that's, okay, but,
The same size, or they can go up bigger?
well, they can't go any closer to,
How about size though?
the size I don't think matter,
Okay.
in my
I don't know.
estimation, as long as it's no closer, it's, you're not decreasing the nonconformity. And again, based upon, your comment about it being an aged shed, it's certainly certainly is older than 10 years,
Sits
so.
on the retaining wall. The shed as is sits on the retaining wall. You bump out that retaining wall
Well-
2 more feet, he's gonna be within 16 feet of the,
but I thought the retaining wall on this, the retaining wall closest to the front lot line is not, is
that's
one.
correct, that stays
Okay,
where
that
it
one's
is.
That one's
staying,
staying.
okay.
Yeah, it's the one on the other side that.
That's
you
closer to the
open.
tank and the one in the back.
Yeah, and I guess some of our concern is to make sure that down the road, if somebody, for example, needed to access that tight tank for whatever reason, that they would have sufficient space around it to do what they wanted to do, and that
Or to dig it out and
Yeah,
undermine.
that your shed wouldn't be close enough to complicate that process.
Okay, well, the fact that the shed is actually being dropped onto that platform means it could also be lifted off relatively easily in that case.
Okay. Yeah, it just, is, when we see tight tanks and stuff like that, it's just, a lot of times when something needs to be done, it's an emergency. And so we don't want to have done something that complicates actions down the road.
So you could have those 2 conversations.
So, Are there any comments or questions from members of the audience? So, in terms of,
Are we gonna address his wanting to pave the?
Or the
well,
pavement.
that's true. Yeah,
I don't see any problem with that.
okay.
And the lot actually, I feel like pitches, the lot line is kind of the highest just due south of the driveway.
Correct.
It appears to, you know,
Pitches to the
grades
north,
to the
exactly,
north. So it
So,
goes away
yeah, I don't
from the wetland.
see
Yeah, so,
issue with that.
and so, I mean,
He's not increasing the size, he just wants to take what he currently uses as a gravel driveway and just, put some asphalt there.
Do we have something that serves as a plan of record that also shows the driveway paving?
again,
Shows the one I couldn't hear.
Paving the driveway.
Yeah, in terms of a plan of record that basically shows all the changes that have been requested and that were approved.
She wants to see a picture of the area
Well,
that
it just is
that's looking
looking
to be
at-
paved.
Look at, well,
sorry.
yeah, where the red mock-up is, that kind of gave me a visual on what's happening with the shed, and if we're gonna say yes to the driveway paving, I would like it,
Well, it's shown on the other plan, the first one,
right,
the one before it, so I figured, well, there's your plan, and he's simply gonna,
but there's,
Doesn't say it's gonna be paved, just says dirt drive.
yeah,
Dirt drive.
is making it very clear
It should
that
say
this.
well, that's what I was saying, I mean, we didn't want to pave any further than what is existing today. But you don't know what that is.
Well,
It's
no,
dirt now, it's not paved.
this is the as-is conditions. The next
Right.
one down shows what the work that wants to be done for the shed. And it's kind of like, it would be nice if it also said, and this is where the paving is going to be, so that it's very clear.
Right, what I
going
tried to
forward.
do here was just to explode the shed so it was clear and
Yeah.
not include
So
the
you could do a
driveway.
sheet.
Yeah, I mean,
Just do
can we
another
just
sheet
do
and
a
show
red,
us where.
red pen on the, it just, with
Yeah.
a lot of this, it's really good that when we're all in agreement, there's the picture that says, this is what you asked for, this is what we agreed to, so there's no question down the road.
And so, I mean, is it the commission's intent to close the public hearing tonight, or would it be beneficial to keep open for another 2 weeks?
Well, if you close it and he needs to make modification because of something he finds, I hate
Honestly,
to close it.
if I need to make
We have
modifications,
reopen.
I may either abandon the project or just keep it on the same footprint. I don't think I'm kind of worn down on this already. I don't think I'm gonna be subject to a lot of changes other than what I proposed.
So for example, if, where you had raised the suggestion that there's a conversation with the Board of Health to make sure they don't have any issues with it, and then the building inspector, the question I think is being asked is, do we wait to see the results of those conversations before we make a final determination and close the public hearing so that we don't complicate things? That we bring this up. If we can still do our determination at our
Are
next
you
meeting.
closing based contingent upon the fact that you're gonna want that conversation to happen? You can't just say, hey.
No,
Yeah.
no,
Check it out, but we're gonna close it, and then nothing happens.
Right, I would recommend, if the commission wants to keep it open because there's gonna be a conversation with the Board of Health and the building department, then let's keep it open. If, he seems
In
reluctant to.
practice, that's how we do it.
Right,
And we always leave it up to the applicant to make that choice, but we do it for a reason.
Yep.
But, if the applicant decides they don't want, then it's,
right,
at their risk that they may have to
So
come
we
back.
got three things that we want to set. One, we want to have a conversation with the building inspector about the shed and its location and size. Two, we want to know about the Board of Health with the tight tank and the location of the building, of the shed, how close it's going to be to it. Are they okay with all that? And three, a drawing similar to the one you have like this that shows the paving.
Or just even amend that by drawing a red line where the driveway is going to be paved, just so that there's one plan that shows all the pieces.
Understood.
Right,
Okay.
that would be it,
And then we
right?
could close next time.
Now, so I think you've heard the questions where we think it would be good for you to follow up with other town departments. So we would continue the public hearing to July 9th, so that after those conversations, we get, that nothing's needed, based
You're
on
good to
whatever.
go, and then
Yeah,
we
right.
can have our meeting and close the public hearing.
Yes.
Close it at the next one.
Right. We don't,
It's only 2 weeks.
we wouldn't, yes, and it's basically to make sure that we don't box you into a corner by closing here, and then a question comes up with those others.
I understand.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So can I have a motion to continue the public hearing to July 9th?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So we'll see you on July 9th? Okay, moving on to our 9:15 PM agenda item. It's a minor modification request for Buttrick, Lot 3, Pacific Lane.
Good evening. My name is Ian Ainsley. I'm an engineer for Brem. I am here with Jake Buttrick, who is the applicant. What we're here to do is modify or ask you to modify a project that was approved by this board in 2019. Hopefully some of you remember it. It's Pacific Lane. It was a common driveway special permit that went through conservation and the planning board. It was 2 houses that were existing as well as a 3rd house that was new. That new house has not been built yet. The common driveway itself has been constructed. I think as this board knows, when we do these common driveway subdivision type plans, one of the houses we show at the time are somewhat generic, and over time as they get more permits and they're more comfortable that they have a project, then they go out and they get, final building plans for getting a building permit and hire an architect and things like that. So they have done so. They've got a footprint that they have building plans for, and that's the footprint that you see there in red. We've also obtained septic approval. So we wanted to come back now that we're saying, okay, this is the house that we're going to build, and get that on record with the commission. The footprint of the house from an area point of view is actually very similar. The original house that we had shown on your permit plans was about 2,400 square feet. The house that we're showing now is about 2,600. So it's about 200 square foot more, but comparable. What's relevant to you is the house is shifted over a little bit so that it's 75 feet from the wetland where it was 91 before. And there's about 400 square feet or so in the buffer zone, more impervious area in the buffer. So we're here just to get that on record. I think it's pretty similar to the intent of the original plan, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Looks like your closest point now is what, 75 feet?
75, and I should
From that
mention.
screen porch?
Yeah, and I should mention that complies with your requirement, 75 feet from a building to a wetland when it's previously undeveloped.
And that screen porch is on, what's going to hold up?
It's going to be on concrete tubes.
Like sonotube?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So you would also, because I'm the one who sent the questions
Sure.
to Matt, when you talk about the grading extending a little bit longer, can you,
Sure.
is I can see how the grading that was put in was very much geared towards the location of the original proposed house. So, I'm trying to understand how the grading changes and.
Let me see if I can clarify. So, let me just figure this thing out. There we go. Okay, so what's going to happen is this grading is going to get extended over this way so that it blends into the house further back here.
Okay.
Those lines, those are 2-foot contour lines. They're going to extend out a little bit further because I think I mentioned the house, once we did the septic design, the finished floor of the house got a couple feet taller. So there's going to be sort of a higher quantity of fill to get that floor elevation higher. So basically this is going to come this way, and then it's going to get pushed out a little bit further to about here. But it's going to stay in the same limit of work that was always on the plan. So I would say your increased grading is going to be in this area.
So it would change where we see the 332-foot contour area, that 332,
Yep.
that's going to get pushed over.
Yeah, it's going to push it a little bit back and a little bit further this way.
So that means that there's, where more of the lawn on that side of the house is sloped, there's less level lawn in the backyard.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. And the homeowners kind of internalized what that means?
Yes.
Has the tank moved at all? Or are there just gonna be more fill in the tank?
You're talking the Caltech chambers in the back.
Yeah.
Those will stay in the same spot, and because the area of the house is about the same as the old one, that'll be kind of the same size system that we had previously as well. And I think we had sized that so it's going to take, I think, the 2-year storm and any kind of small storm like that.
And then where does it discharge once it can't handle anymore?
Sure. So what'll happen is that'll fill up. There's gutters and downspouts on the house, and then once it fills up, it backs up, and there'll be a splash pad here that'll overtop, and it'll go over the lawn like that.
So my only question would be, I understand the additional contours, and the additional fill. Would we have him modify the plan? I mean, right now, this is our existing plan. What we know is contours from the material he's adding is not represented on this plan. And we always talk about getting it represented on the, what is gonna happen on the plan.
So we're having a minor modification discussion, and what you're saying is if we say yes, we will agree to the requested changes, we would expect to see an updated plan of record?
Yeah.
I can give you that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Part of it was when I started putting red lines on the plan, it got a little difficult to read. So
I appreciate that.
I'm
Things
happy-
can get confusing.
I'm happy to give it to you. I was trying to make it a little bit easier to understand.
Could we get it just as have the proposed dwelling, remove the original
Sure.
dwelling,
Yeah.
just be,
Yeah.
here's what is, as discussed by the commission, here's grading, here's the house location, and then it's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
We could do that.
we have one plan of record.
So the original location is now, once we approve the request, the original house location is no longer relevant.
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions, Matt?
No, I just would, if we can, wait till you have the plans provided for the next meeting. I don't think you need to attend
An
again.
issue.
We'll just, approve the modification.
Sure.
As such.
Any comments or questions from members of the audience? No? Okay, so you will get us, so because this is a minor modification request, I don't need to continue it,
Nope.
but we'll expect to get a plan for the next meeting.
Sure.
And we'll just, approve it based on that.
Okay.
Okay?
Sounds good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to our 7:20 PM agenda item, Greystone Open Space Parcel G, a request to install subdivision side sign northerly of 22 Chandler Road. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Mike Norman. I'm a resident of Greystone. With me is
I am Scott Reeve, also a resident of Greystone.
Okay.
very brief 1-minute backdrop. We're members of what's called the Friends of Greystone, which is a volunteer committee with the mission and charter to keep Greystone looking nice, aesthetic, marketable, and create a community of pride for not only Westford, but the residents of Greystone. We take care of the common grounds. We ensure that issues are addressed, and we're the interface back to the town, and we're kind of the point of contact for the 225 residents who may have an issue. We have worked with Matthew. So let me back up a little bit more. We started our journey with the Monuments Committee and Terry Stater, and they had a very productive meeting there. And we're really looking at 2 locations. The one tonight will be location 2, and that is at the corner of Jocko and Chandler Drive. Our first location, really, I think, our impression is that really sits with the select committee because that's town property. The issue here is that we believe this is certainly the Conservation Commission location, and that's why we're sitting here and have worked with Matthew. Matthew, I want to say thank you personally. You have been very responsive. He's been informative. He's been educational, and he's been a delight to work with, and we are ending up here to hopefully take this the next step to get approval to install a Greystone Estates granite sign to welcome people to our community. Full stop. Did I get everything?
You sure did. So I was able to, after a substantive amount of plan review, parcel G was acquired by the Conservation Commission in addition to a couple other parcels within the Greystone area. Back when it was developed, I was able to meet Scott out on site and do some bad surveying. Amateur surveying, there we go, amateur surveying. The property line as estimated is represented by the yellow of the 2 tape measures. The proposed sign width, and maybe not the height, is represented by the snow stakes, the green snow stakes in this location. Again, it's outside of the right-of-way. That was the DPW director's preference, just in terms of safety and sight lines. This being on the commission's parcel, wanted to get the commission's thoughts as opposed to whether this is consistent with the property or not, or doesn't derogate the values of for which the town or the commission acquired this parcel for open space and natural preservation.
When you say acquire, was it something that was bought or was it gifted to the town by the developer?
I think technically it was acquired for $1.
Okay,
I don't think there'll be any negative
no,
feedback from the, oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
well, okay. Did you have a question?
Yeah, it looks like it's mowed. So who takes care of mowing and all that there?
Yeah.
That'd be good. Question.
Question, please, again?
Who does the mowing?
We do.
You do, okay.
We do quite a bit of landscape for the town and the
Okay.
school. And that's all covered by our contract with our
Landscaper.
common area landscaper.
And Matt, this does not have any conservation restriction on it?
No, as the commission acquired it with a simple fee interest, it's not subject to any conservation restriction. So the commission,
Is that grass clippings or something, the kind of tannish, what that marker is?
that's some
that your
form of,
place?
yeah, a little bit.
Okay.
We can figure out, and, have that little bit of education about not,
Yeah.
What is
Huh?
Dead grass.
yard waste,
Yeah, that's where-
leaves. I mean,
that's where
it may
it's-
actually be, to be honest, it may actually be, there's a trail marker just to the left of this boulder that it, identifies the kind of trail that goes, and go back down to the plan, kind of loops up around this lot 122 and then to the south back to Russell's Way and Morrison, I think, maybe he's one of something. But there's a trail network, and so that very well may actually be
The start of the
trail.
trail?
Yeah,
Okay.
kind of a trail
We-
entrance.
So there's a functional trail going through there?
And we maintain that opening.
Okay,
So it may not actually be.
I don't think it's, honestly, I don't think it's focused, I think it is a trail.
Yeah.
okay.
Good.
So people's thoughts.
I have no problem with it.
Yeah,
I don't have any trouble with this.
Okay, and is it, because it's not CR, is it consistent with land?
They said no.
So is this under our care and custody?
Yes, this parcel is under our care and custody.
Okay, and because sometimes, I'm just thinking about the variety of parcels in town that are under our care and custody. Is there anything in the language governing property under the care and custody, separate from a CR, that we would be either would be potentially looked askance at by somebody?
Where, I mean, no vegetation's being removed, it's, kind of at the edge of the right of way. In my opinion, if the commissioners find that the proposed, installation of the sign doesn't derogate from the purpose with which the properties were acquired, again, for the protection of the open space and, passive recreation, I think it's certainly, the commission can kind of say, okay, without there being, again, kind of the next steps in the process. I'd want to follow up with town council and kind of get something laid out for the best way to go about this. But if the commission is amenable to, the request in general, we can figure out the
Then we
legal.
take the next
Right,
step
we
in
can-
terms of doing it the right
And-
way.
Well, they wouldn't have to come to us, and this wouldn't be an issue if they were on outside of your two tape measure
Yes,
lines there?
yes, I did offer, again, kind of as a option, say B and C, if the commission wasn't amenable to the request. One would be to offer lot 122 a sum of money and get a easement to put the sign on that property. The other one would be to put it on lot 5 of Tyler Estates, which is in Tingsboro, and then I have really no jurisdiction. But as the commission seems to be amenable to it being on parcel G, we can kind of head down that path.
No?
So two questions, and I think you may have answered one. Do we do this with like an easement or something?
That's a town council question that we'll get. Again, you guys are on the July 8th select board meeting?
Don't know.
Okay. They're on a select board meeting, because again, they're also asking for a parcel under the care and custody of the select board. So I think we could double up our, make the most efficient use of our request to town council and kind of get here are the options with which to go forward,
Sure.
with which this, can legally be done.
The second question is, this is our property.
Yes.
So if something happens to somebody, what is?
Is there-
Sign falls on them or
The sign falls on them, or while they're installing it, something happens, or whatever,
That's
right?
another great question for town council.
Right.
But I mean, generally, if somebody were to say slip on the trail and, they twist an ankle on the trail. As the town is not receiving money to use the trail, there are protections under the under Mass General Law that kind of prohibit, for outdoor recreation. So.
Marilyn, you had a question?
You're currently mowing that property? So you're getting a value.
Ann?
Should it at least be recognized that it's conservation?
In terms of putting something there,
Sign, or-
identifying that it's also conservation land?
or-
That's,
Appreciation.
I defer to,
Town council.
The- yeah, I mean, if the commission wants, kind of,
Advertising?
Well, I think we,
I don't,
Does it matter?
I don't need to have
Yeah. We don't need
something in that space
Neither
to,
do I.
It's not like.
there's nothing in the space right now that says it's being mowed or anything like,
Okay.
that it's conservation.
I don't think we need.
Well,
to
it just,
anymore.
yeah, and if there's a recreational trail across it.
And there's a trailhead. There's
And there's
one of the
trailhead.
wooden trailhead markers kind of just left of the photo.
So hiding behind the rock?
No, it's
Oh,
off
camera?
off camera.
Okay.
Right.
So,
Also, this is neither a monument or a memorial, and I think the town is kind of opposed to having things that are.
well, yeah, but it went through, I think you went there first because they were told that to get the sign approved, the process starts with that committee.
We were directed by the town manager to start with the Monuments Council and directly with Terry. And they immediately recognized that this wasn't a pure monument, but they would take the facilitative role to be the coordinating with the various stakeholder councils within the town. And so that's why we're sitting here, because now we're moving through the various councils.
I think it's pretty simple.
Okay. So, I guess, actually, any comments or questions from members of the audience? Okay, so can I have a motion signifying that we are amenable to this request and asking Matt to explore with town council the details that would be needed to make it happen?
So moved.
And to authorize Margaret, in the event, something needs to represent the commission, so stuff doesn't have to come back to the commission.
So if something needs to be signed or whatever, I'm authorized to sign it on behalf of the commission.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All set.
All set.
Can I ask a question on another subject and get some guidance? Because this does have Conservation Commission issues as well as Health Department.
Okay.
And if you just said, go here, do that, I'm happy. In April, we had an unfortunate situation where a love seat couch was tossed over a bridge into wetlands right off of Russell's Way. And we immediately brought this to the attention of the town and to DPW and followed in emails and visits. And it is now almost July and that thing is still sitting in there. It is a travesty that it happened, and we, as the volunteer group, have taken actions to mitigate or remedy any future types of behavior. What we're asking for is please remove it.
I can follow up with the DPW. I know, and if they're not able to, we can certainly explore
So just it was
other
randomly
other
disposed?
trash haulers.
So what happened is, and we're taking action here, is people get confused on, especially on the switch over from waste management to Harvey's,
Yeah.
what gets picked up and what doesn't, and how much it costs and what the procedure is. So they took a love seat and put it out at the trash pickup spot, right at the bridge on Russell's Way that connects the, what is that, Forge Pond?
Gilson's Creek.
Gilson's Creek. And it sat there, and we were aware of it, and we're gonna see, okay, what is Harvey gonna do? And as suspected, Harvey did not pick it up because the person who wanted to dispose of it didn't go through the right protocol, pay the fee. And then 2 days later, it's gone. So we figured, okay, maybe they're responsible enough to take care of their own stuff, and, okay, well, end of story. No. We had two neighbors come to us and say, what is the sofa doing down in the wetlands in about 1.5 feet of mud and water, attracting varmints, snakes, and other critters? And that's when we have pictures, and we brought it to the town. Went to Kyle's office. And we were told at the time that they're aware of it, and a plan was in place to remove it. I'm not trying to be cynical here, I'm just reporting. And, here we are, and we have no idea where things stand. And we would just like to know, because we have our residents saying, what are you doing? What's the town doing?
And because it sounds like it's in a location where it's not that volunteers could go and do it themselves.
Absolutely not.
No, it's very.
I can certainly follow up with DPW, and if we need to hire somebody, we can certainly.
And I think it's gonna probably take a piece of equipment.
Yeah, so I'll follow up with them, and.
If you would be kind enough to talk with Kyle or whatever, anything to help push this, it would be greatly appreciated.
Yep. Can do.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, moving on to our next 7:20 PM agenda item. It's discuss and issue enforcement order for CSX Railway, right, CSX right-of-way.
Sorry. So based upon the discussion at the commission's last meeting, I was able to draft an enforcement order for the commission's consideration. Again, the form is fairly standard, again, saying that the findings, the activity has been conducted in an area subject to protection under Chapter 131, Section 40, or the buffer zone in violation of an issuing authority approval, i.e. valid order of conditions or negative determination of applicability. Referenced said determination of applicability issued to Pan Am Railways dated April 15th, 2021. As ordered, cease and desist from any activity affecting the buffer zone or resource area, and shall take the following action as listed in the order.
Three separate fines, right?
Hmm?
Three separate fines.
Yes, so kind of, I have identified the enforcement order being issued to CSX Transportation's Director of Contract Services, Keith Morris as Environmental Consultant, and RWC Inc., their Vice President. These are all names I obtained from CSX Transportation's yearly operation, the yearly operational plan, or the 2025 post-emergent yearly operational plan, on file with the Mass Department of Agricultural Resources. And again, so that's, that document states that CSX Transportation Inc. supervises the execution of the yearly operational plan. Mr. Hampton lists it, and Mr. Morris as the environmental consultant responsible for the preparation of the yearly operational plan. Again, the findings document kind of our history dating back to the issuance of the negative determination in April 2021. Did include a press release, the finding about the press release of CSX acquiring Pan Am Railways, kind of the history back to 2023, where Jim was not able to monitor the spraying for the paperwork that was neglected to be provided, that may not exist. Document Jim was able to observe and monitor in May 2024. And then lastly, our most recent failure to provide for Jim to observe the monitoring last beginning of the month. As ordered, within 45 days of issuance, CSX Transportation Inc. pay a fine of $100 for failure to comply with the issued determination of applicability. Again, same for RWC Inc. as the applicator of record, and Mr. Keith Morris as the environmental consultant. For all three's failure to comply with the issued determination of applicability. I can, if there are any thoughts on that, we welcome them. One other order, granted it's more a cautionary order to them, would be that failure to comply in 2026, granted the failure to comply in 2026, the commission would.
The termination we had so far was in 2021. Is the next ones would be in 2026 if they come?
So it'd be so they're valid for 5 years. So 26. So I think it's valid through 26. As part of the state economic development bill in November 2024, any valid approval between January 2023 through the end of December 2024 received an automatic 2-year extension. So
This is before that time.
no, but it was valid in effect at that time, so it automatically, benefits. So in theory, they're, 27 and 28 could be, they could exercise, this being extended for. But if they fail to comply in 2026, the commission, could vote to rescind the negative determination because they failed to comply with it. And just as a cautionary, it's not a shall, it's a may. In terms of it puts them on notice that we are unhappy and you guys need to or failure to comply in any subsequent year may be grounds for the commission to revoke the negative determination for failure to comply with the conditions.
I have a question about who got the original determination with that letter with the special requirements on there that they were going to give us at least so much notice and accommodate an observer, contact me, give me my phone number, all that stuff's on there. Who we sent that to other than Morris? I don't remember it going to the applicator or the CSX directly, but if it did, I'm okay with it. But if we didn't send it to them, like let's say we didn't send it to the applicator, and I don't think we can find them.
Well, was an applicator identified? Was there an application contractor at that point identified?
I don't think so. I don't.
Okay. That we may not have had the information to provide to that person. That person may not have been identified.
That doesn't seem fair to them. That because if we didn't give one to RWS, the applicator, then I don't think we can hold RWS responsible for.
Every one of my communication in providing your liability, somebody from RWC is included on that communication as because they are the applicant.
So in effect, they've become a party. So up until some point, we were dealing with the environmental consultants in the railway, and at some point, they brought their applicator.
They brought a contractor on board, and
they've been included in all
right, and they were involved, in 2020. This has been the firm that's been doing it back to, at least in my time here.
CSX bought Pan Am. Morris, I discussed it with Morris at the time. He was telling me that he didn't know if they were going to continue on with him or the applicator because they have their own equipment. They might do it on their own, but obviously they've continued on with Morris as the environmental consultant and RWS as the applicator.
So if CSX decides to go with a different with different consultants and contractors to do spring and future years, is our requirement for observation still valid?
Yes. So again, where this was issued to Pan Am and
So everybody, it's inherited forward.
right, and same thing with the environmental. This was issued to Pan Am. CSX bought Pan. It would be if you look at it for if somebody was buying a house, or if a septic was being repaired at a house, right? Regardless of whether it was buyer A or buyer B, if the septic's being replaced, the approval, the negative determination is still for that lot for that work. The applicant can be it continues with successors and interests. One thing in looking at a order of conditions today, one of the general conditions in the standard DEP order of conditions forms is that all contractors are subject. It's not just the property owner and the applicant; it's any contractors hired. So it's just because you may not have been party to the original, you're still subject to it because you're doing the work under it.
So we have the 3 orders, which are with the fines, and then you brought up an additional potential order that says failure to comply with this in subsequent years may lead the commission to reconsider.
And revoke the determination of applicability.
So there's a couple of things to think about is where are we with the conditions of the fines, and then also that reference to the implications of noncompliance in future use.
I think they're both appropriate. I'd say issue the fines and issue, the further language, call it a warning, if you will.
Statement of intention?
Yeah. Please be advised.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
okay. So,
They know we mean business.
And then lastly, in looking at the CC list, I was thinking to add the select board as a whole body again, being that
Yeah, that's fine.
The whole thing started back in the time when we had that derailment of Pam, and they wouldn't let the town manager, the fire, the police chief, anybody onto the tracks in the area, in the vicinity of the accident, and it got to be a big hullabaloo, and we kind of tag teamed along with them when they brought in our state representatives, our U.S. representatives, our state senator. I don't know if we had a U.S. senator.
Elizabeth Warren and Ed Markey.
So they're the senators. It must have been.
This is now. Though.
This
isn't the.
No, this isn't from 2014. This would have been.
Right, so it would be still Ed Markey and Elizabeth Warren, take it as you may. Congress, it would be, when it be?
Anyway, so that's when this whole thing started.
Yeah.
Lord Chahan.
Yes, I was like,
Okay.
so I mean, I can include all three of these, again, kind of as,
They'll wonder what they got. They won't remember. But.
no, but it establishes a basis for, they, again, the railroads often don't, are regulated at a federal level, are, I want to make sure that appropriate, people are notified of, and again, if this is the list with which was discussed or was, CC'd
2014.
in 2014,
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because I went up a couple of pages and it's the letter's dated.
There's
Marilyn?
value to it in that the people from the railroad can see who we sent copies to.
yep, I can
Yes.
start.
There's value in that.
Okay.
It means we mean business.
Yep. So I'll figure out the rep services, so for, send to state and US reps. Well,
State and U.S. reps.
representatives to the
Yeah.
state and federal government.
Yeah.
Certainly do that. I may have to reorganize the order, because
So can I have a motion to issue the enforcement order as amended through this discussion? Second? All those in favor? Aye.
I'll need to print out that page at the end of the meeting. I don't have that printed originally.
Oh, for us to sign?
Yeah.
Okay.
Take a minute.
Okay, so moving on to our next 7:20 PM agenda item, it's a minor modification request from Thompson 18 Dana Drive.
I have not received an updated plan as of yet.
So moving on to our next 7:20 PM agenda item, it's a continuation of the public hearing for Zalm Living LLC, 37 Powers Road.
The applicant has requested the public hearing be continued to the commission's July 23rd meeting.
And I have a motion to continue the public hearing to July 23rd. All those in favor? Aye. Bobby's Ranch.
I do not have an update.
The enforcement order for 27 Tenney Road.
I have not been able to make progress on that as well.
Okay, discussion of candidate questions for the interviews that will be on our July 9th meeting. or interview? I believe we have one candidate?
We have one candidate right now.
Okay,
Interview could be plural, we're not.
yeah, okay. So these, I think you said these were the questions we've used
Previously.
previously, okay.
And if there's any additional questions that commissioners think, would be important to have for the consideration.
Any members of the commission have something to add or a question to include in here?
When I ask, it's already up there.
Okay.
Can you send me a copy of that?
It's in the-
Yeah, I'll have them out for the meeting.
Next packet, yeah.
Okay.
So I did come up with another one, and basically what I had sent to Matt was the Conservation Commission has active representation on some other town commissions and committees such as Community Preservation Committee, Agricultural Commission, and Open Space and Recreation Plan Committee. Are you willing to take on this additional responsibility at times? So understanding that, Marilyn, at some point, you step down.
Well, when I
We
stop
need-
from here, yeah.
Yeah, we will need somebody to represent the commission on the Community Preservation Committee.
I've been doing it 24 years.
Yeah, so it just is,
Yep, it's a good question.
yeah,
Yes.
Fine.
And it's
So-
gonna happen to someone else, right?
yeah. Okay, so that one was to add. Now we're moving on to the discussion items.
Just as a precursor, on the July 9th meeting, I will be including a discussion item regarding board reorganization. I'm not trying to overthrow Margaret and have a coup. It's just the annual kind of discussion of things, and so don't be surprised if you see it.
Did
We do that at the beginning of every fiscal year.
Did we ever do that to you?
People plotting their demise? No.
No, it just, the first time he put it up there,
Did we ever do that to Peter? I don't think so.
Yeah, you did.
Bob,
Did we?
They did it to me.
That's what I asked you.
yeah,
did we?
it-
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those.
It's just one of those things we do.
And if nobody wants
And
changes,
nobody wants to, yeah.
then but you have the opportunity, so in the event somebody wants to nominate somebody else, they can go through that process.
Okay,
It's not,
I just remembered.
I have no nefarious motives. I just enjoy working for you.
okay.
I don't have anything, in discussion action, I don't have anything for the Keys Road, 20 Keys Road discussion. I need to send that letter. Because I also did observe a load of gravel, a pile of gravel that had been dumped at the end of the driveway. So just want to reach out to them and connect and let them know that their property is subject to jurisdiction, is within jurisdictional buffers and subject to the Wetlands Protection Act regulations.
Okay.
With Stony Brook Conservation, I don't have an update on the beach attendant situation. I need to follow up with the Recreation Director. And the year-end review with the summer camp operators I need to organize with a couple commissioners.
On the year-end report, that was good, what you would add another column to it. But I noticed one thing that the contract says that they didn't include, and that's how much, what's the dollar value of the scholarships. They did indicate there were 10 scholarships per week, and while that's not a contractual requirement, they did include it in their proposal. When they submitted the proposal, they said they would go for 10, and every week they did have 10. But the report is also supposed to include the dollar value of those scholarships. As I mentioned in open forum, it's also supposed to include, the report should also include the, we should separately get an insurance proof that shows the town as an additional insured on their insurance policy. And that, if we don't have it already, that's late.
I'll double check that.
Where's this report? We don't have one. It's supposed to be-
Yeah, I received a email from the camp director regarding the scholarships that were provided to low-income, underprivileged attendees, and it was in a format that I didn't think was digestible. So I sent it to Jim, who was asking, and Margaret just kind of like asking for thoughts of how do I make this into a better, what are your thoughts on making this into, a one-page document that you can look at and you
It
understand.
tells you something.
Right, as opposed to trying to, distill out what's going on.
Contract says they're supposed to have a report to us every December.
Oh,
Reporting on
Do
the
you
prior
think Stacy can
years.
give us the number of
If not,
campers
Stacy,
every week?
if not Stacy, I'm sure somebody back
Okay.
in management can.
Okay.
They
is
have.
this the last year of the contract?
Yes, it can be renewed. Yeah, it was a 5-year contract with a potential for a 5-year extension.
But we're unlikely to just proceed along with an extension because we reached sort of an impasse of disagreement over the traffic issue. So we gotta resolve that somehow.
Right, and so
Put out a separate RFP.
my thought was to have them come to the commission's last July meeting and kind of have a discussion about what's the commission's intent in moving forward, what's their intent in moving forward,
So are people driving up now?
Yes.
Okay.
Should we have a member of the trust here?
Yeah, I mean, we can
The
certainly,
Land Preservation Foundation?
WLP.
And maybe we should let Sudbury Valley trustees know too.
yeah, and keep them abreast of it. But have that for the end of July. So again, as they're wrapping up, say, their camp season, they have some intent, they have an idea from the commission whether or not
How simple next year's gonna be.
well, well, whether or not, they need to move out, they need to move all their stuff out, they're not gonna pursue or kind of the logistics of, because typically they store their boats and all their, archery equipment and stuff at the property in the attic of the lodge. So if, the commission's not going to be continuing with that contract, and we're gonna be going out.
They're gonna have to clean it up.
Right, or we kind of come to an agreement.
Figure out a way to let them store if need be, yeah.
Right, store it over the winter, again, but if they're planning on submitting a new proposal for, okay, well, if they could potentially still, and they want to store it up there, that's an option, again. It's cold storage, it's secure, I'm fine with. But that's something, again, for that July 23rd meeting.
It needs to be brought up then.
For what it's worth, I was talking to someone I met yesterday, he said, by the lake, right,
Mhm.
up there. There are a lot of people up there. Not yesterday, but the day before, a couple of days before. I said, were people drinking? He said, no, it was very reasonable. Some of the radios are a little too loud, but not too bad. He
During
said
the day
Edwards,
or the evening?
what's that?
During the day or the evening?
I'm not sure, he took his dog for a walk, he said.
Okay. Because I thought, you talked about this week,
So it would have been 2 days ago.
Yeah, so Monday.
so camp's in session?
Camp's in session, but again, if it's after, 5 o'clock when
Yeah, I'm not
camps are
sure.
out, yeah.
Okay.
And he also said Edwards Beach was bad.
Yeah.
The trash.
They made the police report this week. Each did,
Or was it noise or?
of public drinking.
Okay. He said Sunday was bad, a lot of trash outside there, but he went on Monday, it was fine. It was cleaned up.
Our beaches didn't, the East Boston Camp's beaches didn't make it, but the Woodlands Ave beach did.
Well, and looking in the police reports in the WCAT newspaper, Lakeside Lakeside Meadows.
Lakeside Meadows did too, that's right, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always read the police report.
Like, ah.
Yeah, and if anybody happens to, read the police reports and see something that, you want a police report, just send me an email with the date and time, and I'm more than happy to
Yeah.
get it, ask from police for the report.
I did get a call from somebody that they ran into 2 Westford police officers on their bikes.
Oh, that's great.
They'd driven in, I guess they must have a bike rack on the cruiser or something, and so they pedaled through the day beach, went out the day beach back, that's all she knew.
Good to know they're going up.
Yeah, it's good.
I don't have an update on the repairs using the donation from.
So that, yeah, the second request for quote.
Yeah, I have not.
You have another,
Oh, sorry.
the card I gave you?
Oh, yeah.
Or-
That's for Freedom Park.
Pardon me?
That was for Freedom Park. I was gonna.
Oh, I thought you were on.
No, the top of the second page, the East Boston Camps repairs.
The chimney stuff.
Yeah, the chimney stuff.
That's what I was talking about. I gave you a business card for another mason.
I thought he did stonework.
Walkways,
Yeah, I was thinking that was more.
Masonry.
Oh, that's real mason. Okay, yeah, I'll follow up with him.
vertical masonry.
Vertical mason.
He worked on my chimney. So.
Okay, I thought he was.
Horizontal.
Yeah, it's just hardscape
It's
stuff.
local. He's based in Billerica, and he has the contract with the town of Billerica to do masonry repairs for their school and public buildings. So,
Yeah, I'll reach out
it's
and.
good or bad, I don't know.
No, I'll certainly follow up with them. Edwards Woods, I have not made any progress following the commission's last meeting. Freedom Park improvements, I have not received a timeline I have not received any notification from the contractor about the survey work. The letters have gone out today, or they got dropped in today's mailbox, so they're going out to the abutters, the direct abutters, that there will be survey work going on. Don't have any update on any of the other pieces.
Well, but we've gotten the date for the long stop for fireworks, right?
Oh, yeah, no, I was just kind of that Freedom
Yeah,
Park stuff.
okay.
And Summer Village, the CR amendment, I don't have an update on. I did find a date for the long stop for pond fireworks and provided that to the contractor. They acknowledged it, and they'll, try to schedule their water sampling around that timeframe. I've not followed up with the trustee from the Jarvis Hill Estates. In terms of recording the site visit, we don't have any site visits. There's nothing to schedule. If there's nothing else, the commissioners can just stick around a couple minutes. I'll print out the signature page for the enforcement order, and we'll go from there.
Okay. So can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, but